So let's take a look at my skill tree, but first I just need to mention that this is not a cheap build. I'm using quite expensive item just so everyone knows that. So let's get started. I started by taking the attack speed in the beginning and the physical damage, then I went for the armor evasion and life and the attack speed here. I went for Art of the Gladiator, Bravery and Master of the Arena. I went down here, took Destroyer. I went for Splittering Strike. I went for Gorm's Blood. I have a Yule Socket here, area damage, physical damage and some resistance. I have Cloak and Chain. I went for Thaumaturgy, I think that is what it's called, but I don't know. I went for Executioner and Wrecking Bell. And then I took Vitality Void and Iron Reflexes. By the way, this is my source of my mana leech. I only need this one, and the higher damage you are, the better this one works. If you have trouble sustaining your mana in the beginning, just take another mana leech note here, and maybe even Spirit Void to have mana leech enough to sustain your Cyclone. Moving on, I went this way here. I went to the Marauder area, took Warrior's Blood, this armor evasion and life note, armor and life notes. I took Heart of the Warrior, Born to Fight, Butchery. I have Barbarism, and I went for Resolute Technique, so I can't crit, but I can't miss either. And then I went for Cleaving and Slaughter. I have another Yule Socket here, which again, physical damage with 200 weapons, attack speed with access, melee damage, you name it. And I have Juggernaut for some increased life and armor. I also went up here. Here I have a pretty a must-have Yule in this case. It's Warlord's Reach and it's very easy to get. You actually get it through a quest reward, so getting this one, very easy. I have Berserking for some attack speed. I have Sentinel for some armor and all resistance. And I have this nice life, this big nice life wheel here. And I have Path of the Warrior. So that's pretty much my normal skill tree. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. So let's take a look at my Ascendancy tree. I went for Bane of Legends, Hedgeman, Endless Hunger and Brutality. Brutal Favor. When I'm leveling up a character like this, I always go for Endless Hunger first. And then I go for Brutal Favor, Bane of Legend, and last I went for Hedgeman. So that's pretty much my skill tree. And I'm going to talk about, and by the way, the bandits I helped. I actually helped Oak, and I killed all the rest. So let's take a look at my items. I can start with my weapon. I'm using Atzero's Disfavor. And I'm mainly using this axe for the +1 to the weapon range, but also it's a very powerful axe, have a lot of physical damage and attack speed. You can probably use a rare axe instead, if you can get an axe which have as high physical damage and attack speed as you can get. For your helmet, you just want defensive stats, you want as high armor or armor evasion as possible, and you want as high life and the resistance you need. For my amulet, I'm using the Resus Salute, I think it's pronounced. I'm mainly using this one for the +2 to weapon range, which are very powerful. It also give a pretty good amount of resistance, but it doesn't have any life. And this amulet is quite expensive, so you're probably better off going for a rare amulet instead, which have life and resistance. And some physical damage if you can get it. For my rings, yeah, again, as much life as you can afford. And resistance. And I even needed some intelligence for this build, so I have that on my rings as well. Same thing with other ring. Life and resistance. For my gloves, again, life, the resistance you need, and if you can, get some good armor or armor evasion. And also some attack speed if you can, and flat physical damage. Now we come to one of the more expensive items. I'm using a Calm's Heart. You don't have to use armor like this. You can actually use rare armor instead if you can get as high armor and life as you can. And now we get into even more expensive items. I'm using the Wretch, which are a very powerful belt because 200% of your life leech are applied to enemies as chaos damage. So the more you leech, the more damage you do to enemies. And this belt is absolutely amazing, but it is very expensive. And finally, I'm using these boosts here. You absolutely must have movement speed because Cyclone and movement speed are perfect together. And if you can, try to get some good armor as well. And life and resistance. For your flask, I personally running 2 Quicksilver flasks because I like to move very fast when I'm using Cyclone. But you don't have to use 2 Quicksilver Flasks, by recommending at least 1. Then I'm just using 2 decent, pretty good Eternal Flask for some life. And I have a Serious Promise, which are very cheap to get and it gives a lot of damage. And that's pretty much my gear. If you have any question about my gear, feel free to ask me in the comments. So let's take a look at my skill gems. I start with our main damage setup, which is Cyclone, together with faster attacks, added fire damage, ruthlessness, melee damage on full life, and melee physical damage. For my movement skill, I'm using Leap Slam, together with faster attacks, Fortify, and Blood Magic, so I can jump around indefinitely, will never run out of mana. For my auras and buffs I'm using, always using Hatred, and I either using Herald of Ash or I using Vulnerability with Blasphemy. But keep in mind you can't use all of these 3 at the same time. But I'm normally using Vulnerability, but sometimes I swap out Vulnerability for Herald of Ash instead. And I'm also using Blood Rage for some extra attack speed, extra life leech, and the chance to get French charges when you kill something. I also have 1 cost and damage taken setup, which is just Wallow's Mark, together with cost when damage taken. You don't have to use Wallow's Mark, you can use something like Temporal Chain as well. And finally I have a Vengeance skill, which I just link to life leech for that extra life leech if I'm getting hit and there are a lot of enemies around me. And that's pretty much my skill gems. If you have any questions about my skill gem, feel free to ask me in the comments. And if you missed it in the beginning, I helped Oak to get the physical damage reduction, life regeneration, and the physical damage. So I'm gonna show this character in action now, and I thank you all for watching, and I see you guys.